God bless the United States Navy.
Well, do we have this all figured out yet? Do we realize how all of this is slowly building around the earth to take down a demonic cabal that has controlled all levers of power for centuries, slowly being dismantled, but not without a fight and backlash? More than ever, we are witnessing the panic, the Democrats openly lying to our face, the rhinos are getting exposed, the world leaders not having any say-so, and they're doing things around this earth that we're going to catch on to, because the enemy doesn't like to go down without a fight. It's wonderful to behold in one way. In other ways, we have to continue to stay in prayer. We're at 500,000 plus followers on our Rumble. Go to. They believe in free speech, allow us to speak openly, and that's why we love them so much, and they take care of us. When you hit that like button, it helps us get to the top of the leaderboard. Again, you've helped us get to the top 3 of all of the videos, and that helps get our views up and more. And we just want to let you know that we're celebrating 250 years, right? This year, we've got gear now, And We Know gear. If you go to shop.andweknow.com or just andweknow.com, you'll find our link to our merch, and you'll see that we have a wonderful hats and shirts celebrating the 250 years our Independence Day, right? Also, our women's 3/4 sleeve V-necks are finally here. You can see those on your screen. We'd love for you to check those out. We'd love it.
It's incredibly frustrating, Sean. And if the American people want the truth, they definitely should not pick up the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or watch CNN, especially these days in the midst of this incredibly successful military operation against Iran. It's almost like these legacy American media outlets were rooting for the Iranian regime over the American people, over our great United States military, because they are so rooted in their opposition to President Trump rather than seeking and reporting on the facts. The facts are the United States of America tonight have never been so close to making a truly good deal, unlike the horrific deal signed by Barack Hussein Obama, than we are right now. Why? Thanks to President Trump's brilliant negotiating tactics and thanks to the success of Operation Epic Fury, a mission that he launched after 47 years of Iran being at war with the United States of America and having presidents for 47 years who lacked the courage to do what President Trump finally had the courage to do. Our military took
the courage even before our very eyes. Listening to this for those not looking. Caroline Leavitt, the boldness to call out Barack Insane Obama. Well, Hussein Obama. We need this to be projected out as many times as possible into the psyche of the people who have been psyoped in believing that all of our elections have been legal, perfect, that people actually did pick those that served as our president of the United States, right? We're finding out that they've been chosen and placed for so many decades. We wonder who was real, who wasn't. Well, they're being called out. And for the folks that are brainwashed into believing that our real leaders were around taking care of them, they need to know we've been lied to for a long time. President Trump continues to put out information for folks to read on Truth Social, and folks grab a hold of these and they put them out, and then we see if there's any kind of coding or information that the president's trying to use and their team to reach out to us. He put this out. The deal that we are making with Iran will be far better than the JCPOA, commonly referred to as the Iran nuclear deal penned by Barack Hussein Obama and Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst deals ever made having to do with the security of our country. Now, many of you guys that are listening to me right now, you've heard this hundreds of times. How many folks out there don't pay attention, don't have time? They're working as slaves. They're being taxed to death. Everything they do, they're working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And, they don't have time to watch the news or go on to Truth Social and read President Trump's information, watching the news stations, even if they can get a few minutes. Maybe they still are locked into Fox News or some of these other people on Fox who have their radio shows and they're listening to them, but they're still not getting the information they need. I'm going to continue. President Trump said it was a guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon. You see that? He's connecting the dots, folks. Barack Hussein Obama gave him money. It was a guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon. I'm just connecting the dots there, which will not, he said, and cannot happen with the deal we're working on. They actually gave, here you go, here's the number, $1.7 billion in green cash. There's that word green. There's that number 17. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Loaded into a Boeing 757 and flown to Iran for Iranian leadership to spend any way they saw fit. He emptied out all the cash from banks in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. Those bankers said they've never seen anything like it before. In addition, hundreds of billions of dollars was paid to Iran. If I did not terminate that deal, nuclear weapons would have been used on Israel and all over the Middle East, including our cherished U.S. military bases. The fake news, like lightweight Washington compost, I call it compost, but it's Post journalist David Ignatius, loves to talk about the JCPOA, knowing that it was dangerous and a complete embarrassment to our country. If a deal happens under Trump, it will guarantee peace, security, and safety, not only for Israel and the Middle East, but for Europe, America, and everywhere else. It'll be something that the entire world will be proud of, instead of years of embarrassment and humiliation that we have been forced to suffer due to incompetent and cowardly leadership. President Donald J. Trump. Now let's go to a little code on this one, okay? From Ultra Mega Dean Erickson. Remember I told you the $1.7 billion, the green cash that was given over to Iran, Boeing 757. He said the bankers, well, this was posted at 1:35 p.m. 1:35 p.m., guys, if you go to Q135, I'm going to blow it up here on your screen for those watching your screen. Q135 is what? Rothschild-owned and controlled banks. It has a list of all the central banks around the world controlled by the Rothschilds. It's in alphabetical order. It starts with A's, and this is just the A group, A through C. Afghanistan all the way down to Canada. But there's a long list. If you go to Q drop 135, they've got a list of them. And then if you go to 757, remember the Boeing 757, you go to Q757, warning EU possible car attack, strike package, X-ray 7, Q Delta. It looks like we have 17, also known as President Trump, giving the green light on a strike package against the Rothschild-owned and controlled banks of the world. You see? See how that's kind of put in there? You know that's really interesting, folks? I'm going to share something with you real quick that I thought was actually kind of strange. Let me pause this for a second. A movie suggestion popped up on my computer the other day called Mercury Rising with Bruce Willis. I've never seen it before. 1998 American action thriller film directed by Harold Becker. The film is based on Ryan Douglas Pearson's 1996 novel originally published as Simple Simon, which was the working title of the film. Now, they go as an undercover FBI agent, Bruce Willis, who protects a 9-year-old autistic boy, Simon Lynch, who is targeted by government assassins after he cracks a top-secret government code. Check this out, folks. Well, I watched it, and I was like, he just said no such agency when he was referring to the NSA. This says government assassins. Oh, it was NSA. They were the assassins. And guess what? These guys were cryptographers who put coding information into a book, a little code book, and this 9-year-old boy cracked it and made a phone call, and all of a sudden the NSA was looking for him and his family. I was like, wow, even back then they had the cryptographers coding And they said, we work for the no such agency. I don't know, just thought kind of interesting if you guys are looking for something to watch. While all this is playing out, we had another message sent out by President Trump. The Democrats are doing everything possible to hurt the very strong position we are in with respect to Iran. Despite World War I lasting 4 years, 3 months, and 14 days, World War III lasting 6 years and a day, Korean War 3 years and a month, 2 days, the Vietnam War 19 years, 5 months, 29 days, Iraq lasting 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. They like to say that I promised 6 weeks to defeat Iran, and actually from the military standpoint, it was far faster than that. I'm not going to let them rush the United States into making a deal that is not as good as it could be or could have been. I read the fake news saying that I am under pressure to make a deal. It's not true. You guys realize when you're watching even Fox News, the key words that they use to twist the minds of the people, you guys realize that? Under pressure. Trump is a threat to Iran. There's chaos going on around the world. You know, they just use all this stuff to get your minds all freaking out. Anyway, let's continue. This is not true, says President Trump. I am under no pressure whatsoever, although it will all happen relatively quickly. Time is not my adversary. The only thing that matters is that we finally, after 47 years, straighten out the mess that other presidents let happen because they didn't have the courage or foresight to do what had to be done with respect to Iran. We're in it, and it will be done right. And we won't let the weak and pathetic Democrats, traitors all of them, who for years have been talking about the dangers of Iran and that something has to be done. You guys watched our video yesterday where we showed, you guys remember we showed you Kamala saying that, don't do anything, Iran. We need to stop them. And then all of a sudden Trump does something. We need to stop Trump from what he's doing. These guys have lost their minds. This is being perfectly executed, says President Trump, on a scale of Venezuela, just a bigger, more complex operation. The result will be the same. My first term, I built the greatest military our country's ever seen, including adding Space Force. My second term, I'm properly and judiciously using our military to solve problems left to us by others of far less understanding or competence. Make America great again. We got a lot more to cover, folks. I barely got through just now getting some information. Caroline Levitt, we've got some more information from her in a moment.
Antibiotics are killing more people than any of us realize.
Why would antibiotics potentially cause disease? Well, the theory is that we know antibiotics alter the microbiome. It's almost like carpet bombing parts of the microbiome.
Yeah.
And you get bacterial overgrowth. We don't know what to do with it. We know overgrowth is associated with inflammation. 20% higher rate of obesity. 21% higher rate of learning disabilities, 32% higher risk of developing attention deficit disorder, 90% higher rate of asthma, Crohn's disease, nearly a 300. All these diseases are going up.
Yeah.
Antibiotics are being massively overused, and every time you take them, you're disrupting your gut. The most powerful way to rebuild your gut is with a centuries-old fermented food, kimchi. In fact, studies reveal kimchi has powerful immune supporting effects, helping your body shut down illnesses before they even have the chance to start. That's because fermentation produces beneficial probiotic bacteria that help restore balance in the gut microbiome and support immune function. In fact, certain probiotic strains found in kimchi have been shown to help crowd out harmful microbes in the gut, eliminate funguses like Candida, kill nasty parasites, defend against dangerous viruses. Since 70-80% of your immune system lives in your gut, strengthening the microbiome helps strengthen your body's overall defenses. So, when your gut microbiome is thriving, your whole immune system becomes more resilient. But here's the challenge. Most people aren't eating kimchi consistently enough to get those benefits. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One. Today, you could try Kimchi One by clicking the link below for 25% off your entire order. Or for the best deal available, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Call now at 888-317-9941.
ultimately, he is the final decision maker, and he makes decisions in the best interest of the United States of America. And he doesn't care about the political consequence. He doesn't care about what he knows the fake news media will write. He does what he truly feels is in the best interest of our country. And when it comes to Iran, of course, that is ensuring that they can never obtain a nuclear bomb, which they were very close to doing. And President Trump and his negotiating team found that the Iranian regime was pushing us around, stringing us along. They were looking forward to enriching more uranium to build these deadly weapons. And they were getting ready to attack our bases, our troops, and our allies in the region. And President Trump said, not on my watch. And that's why he ultimately made the decision to launch this successful operation several weeks ago, and why he continues every day to remain focused on the long game to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's what he's going to achieve here one way or another.
Anybody wonder how she does it? She's so articulate. She's ready to go every single day. And she has a team that works for her. I remember watching her, and you guys have seen it too, where before they go into the press briefings, she tells everybody, let's pray, and they pray before they get started. The power of prayer. The enemy hates prayer, hates the fact that we can talk directly to our Heavenly Father through Christ. Well, you wouldn't believe it unless you heard it. Even 60 Minutes admitted President Trump was right.
UN inspectors believe Iran has close to 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%, nearly ready to be used in a nuclear weapon. 970 pounds of 60% highly enriched uranium. What can you do with that?
So that is enough material for, if you enrich it just a little bit more, for 10 to 11 nuclear bombs. Iran has been lying about its nuclear weapons effort for over 20 years now. They have always claimed our program was 100% peaceful. We were never pursuing nuclear weapons. That's a lie. And then once the international inspectors got in and started finding some things out, the Iranians kept lying to them.
How about that? Out from 60 Minutes. President Trump put another message out. He was putting them out crazy, and he says, I'm winning a war by a lot. Things are going very well. Our military has been amazing. And if you read the fake news, like the failing New York Times, the absolutely horrendous and disgusting Wall Street Journal, or the now almost defunct, fortunately, Washington Post, you would actually think we are losing the war. The enemy is confused because they get these same media reports. And yet they realize their Navy has been completely wiped out. Their Air Force has gone into darker runways. They have no anti-missile or anti-airplane equipment. Their former leaders are mostly gone. This has been, in addition to everything else, regime change. And perhaps, most important of all, the blockade, which we will not take off until there is a deal. It's absolutely destroying Iran. They are losing $500 million a day, and an unsustainable number, even in the short run. The anti-America fake news media is rooting for Iran to win, but it's not going to happen because I'm in charge. Just like these unpatriotic people used every ounce of their limited strength to fight me in the election, they continue to do so with Iran. The result will be the same. It already is. President Donald J. Trump. Now, if you guys were looking at Department of War CTO, they put this out, good morning, we're going to win. And they have this locked in phrase showing what? The bald eagle. It looks like some missiles shooting through. Well, they posted this at 10:37. 10:37 on the keyboard says booms en route blind 5-5 green. There's that green again. Here we go. You know, I saw this from Jake Can 72. Had basically a graphic to show everybody Trump sees the network, not the tanker, the map, the weapons corridor. And he said this, Trump didn't seize a tanker, he sees the network map. The Tuska is IRISL, state-owned. Sanctioned for moving ballistic missile components. This isn't a shadow fleet tanker moving oil. This is the weapons corridor. The cargo matters less. The logs are the asset. Routing patterns, shell companies, intermediary ports. One boarding can blow open an entire supply chain. Names, routes, cutouts, all of it sitting in a hold that just got opened. We're seeing what's on board, quote unquote, isn't a boast. It's legal cover for what comes next. Iran can't complain without telling you what was on it. Lloyd's of London doesn't wait for headlines. These routes just got more expensive. They lost a ship. The U.S. mapped the system. You know, I like to see information like this from folks just to keep us grounded.
You want to know why Trump supporters appear to be so unbothered while the left has a meltdown every other day? Because we're winning. Yeah, we're winning every day. And that's what winners look like. Unbothered.
So good. Love it. You know, President Trump continued with more messaging. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th, added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, did. I watch and read the fake news pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made-up stories, and the polls are rigged, much as the 2020 presidential election was rigged. Just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about, the results in Iran will be amazing. And if Iran's new leaders, regime change, are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. President DJT. You know, DC Lidstone looks at these, and he looks at all the capital letters, and he decodes it and says, look how many, 619 all caps. So I'm going to bring this up. Look at this. This is how he does it. He takes the capital letters, he assigns the gematria to them and adds them up and says, wow, we'll get 619. 619 on the keyboard says strings to cut? Question mark. Think logically. Also, we found out from President Trump, the Iranian leadership has forced hundreds of ships toward the United States, mostly Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska, to get their oil. Thank you very much, President Donald J. Trump. Wow. Well, of course, when you look at this, and you look at the capital letters, again, add them up, it's 64. We are prepared and assets are in place. Another part of this decode, Kimberly Auer, that looked at this and said, look at this, leadership, thank you very much. He posted it at 228, 228 on the cue board says USA leadership change, SA leadership change, Germany leadership change, Pakistan leadership change, 40,000 foot, 8765. Countdown. Iranian leadership change. All connected. Speaking to all of us. You know, while all this is playing out, I don't think it's a coincidence that we've had explosions in all of these fuel-related industries. Romania had a large explosion. 10 fuel tankers on fire after a major explosion at the port in Homalin, Myanmar. Eyewitnesses report a rapid spread and multiple injuries. Emergency crews are still battling the intense heat. Another oil refinery accidentally caught fire in India, the USA, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Ecuador, plus the ones in war zones. It's clear what the elites are doing. It's going to be tough for us, the normies. They will collapse the system before the geophysical event. That's how they believe they'll increase their chances of survival. At least in their heads, the enemy. Another one, massive explosion causes fire at an oil rig near Atoll, Texas. Is all this by coincidence? While this is happening, just a reminder, the feds arrested an Iranian woman at LAX for allegedly brokering weapons sales for the Islamic regime. That's right. She brokered deals to sell Iranian-made drones, bombs, bomb fuses, assault weapons, and millions of rounds of ammunition to Sudan in violation of U.S. sanction laws, according to a newly unsealed criminal complaint. U.S. Department of Justice put this out. Shamim Mafi, 44 years old, Woodland Hills, California. arrested at LAX for trafficking arms on behalf of the government of Iran. Wow. Charged with violation of 50 USC 1705 for brokering the sale of these items. How did you get by with this? Then you wonder, what's going on with these explosions around the earth and these different fuel-related industries? I'm going to connect some more dots with you here in a moment with her. And when an Iranian woman, Masih Alinejad, she fled the Islamic regime, and she came out strongly in support of President Trump and what he's doing and catching these Iranian dissidents. The Iranian dissident Masih Alinejad backs Trump and Rubio on deporting regime supporters for Iran. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Have you been dealing with nagging pain, restless nights, constant stress, or just feeling drained? What if the solution was something as simple as wearing a watch? Introducing the new and improved WaveWatch 2.2, the world's first sound frequency therapy watch. This isn't just a timepiece, it's 166 powerful frequency sets, over 1,250 targeted frequencies designed to help your body restore balance naturally. Wear it on your wrist, pick a set for pain relief, deeper sleep, detox, energy boost, stress melt away, or even nerve support, and let gentle, safe sound waves do the work. No apps, no Bluetooth, just pure natural harmony. I use the watch for my back pain and also to regulate my sleep. My friend used it who had terrible knee pain affecting his bowling. Now he bowls pain-free. Another shared in less than a week improvements in liver, hip pain, nerve pain, and emotional balance. It's a blessing. Thousands are experiencing fast-acting wellness without chemicals or side effects. Right now, WaveWatch is giving And We Know fans a special deal. You get 15% off with code AWK. That's code AWK. That's a big savings on the WaveWatch 2.2. Don't wait. Supplies are limited and pre-orders are moving fast. Visit wavewatch.com/pages/AWK today. Use code AWK and take the first step toward feeling better naturally, because when we know better, we do better. Order now.
And I'm not surprised, because I've been warning alongside millions of Iranians that the Islamic Republic knows very well how to use America, democracy, to actually support other dictators across the globe. The Autocracy Inc., authoritarian regimes work together. They support each other. And now that's the sign that even here in America, that how this woman, Shamim, how she looks like Kim Kardashian. She doesn't even look like the Islamic Republic agents. How she, for first place, how she got the visa to come here. Many Iranian students are in trouble to get visa. And that's why the U.S. administration did a great job for doing investigation about the visas and green card of more than 3,000 Iranians who are here in America. This case actually reminds me of Nilufar Bahadori, another woman who was helping the Islamic Republic Revolutionary Guards by money laundering, sending money to them, hiring private investigator to kidnap me. So Nilufar Bahadori is in prison. She was charged to be in prison for 4 years. And I'm very glad that now Shamim is being in court. And that's the decisive action that we were asking Biden administration. And now, finally, Trump administration doing something. And I have to say that right now that I'm talking to you, a nurse, Iranian nurse, a female nurse, was killed in front of her husband. And that hit us very hard because the husband watched while his wife being killed, simply for helping the wounded one who actually got wounded during the uprising. And guess what? Then the Islamic Republic security went and abused the dead body of this nurse and took a picture and sent it to her husband. And that's why her husband committed suicide yesterday.
Ooh. So sad. Those are some very dark things that she's pointing out. The Iranian dissident, Masih Alinejad, hopefully said her name correctly, keep canceling the visas and deporting the regime loyalists. You know, This is how many illegals received expedited Social Security numbers as soon as they entered the United States.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. Doge exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. Doge also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and Doge says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying. He's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
Yeah. 2021, 270,000 got Social Security numbers. 2024, 2.1 million. Right before the election.
Illinois, Chicago, New York, Massachusetts. Democrats have gerrymandered the vote beyond recognition to try to maintain their advantage in the House elections. On top of it, let's not forget, Democrats rigged the 2020 census by including illegal aliens. Remember, they sued Donald Trump. They sued the administration. They fought tooth and nail to include illegal aliens in the census. 20 to 30 of House Democrat seats wouldn't exist but for illegal aliens. Texas is taking just a small corrective step against this ocean of fraud, this ocean of abuse by the corrupt Democrat Party, Sean.
Yeah, remember we talked about that? I mean, we have to remind everybody again. They count the illegal aliens in their census and say, okay, we've got this many people that live in this area, therefore we get this many seats. Make them out to be Democrat seats. So they get 20 or 30 extra seats. Imagine if everything was done legally, folks. Imagine if we had legal votes, paper ballots. The people that we pick are actually the ones that are in power. And they actually do their job. We probably have mostly conservatives. About 80, 85% conservative and 15% of the rest. Nope, they've been gerrymandering and playing with these numbers for a while. Well, let's go back in time and see when even Obama was against this gerrymandering, right?
I think we've got to end the practice of drawing our congressional districts so that politicians can pick their voters and not the other way around.
That was 2016, January 12th.
Let a bipartisan group do it. By voting yes.
And then, the other day, look what he says.
You can push back against the Republicans trying to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. And we're counting on you.
Well, and of course, Democrats say Republicans started this whole thing in Texas. Laura, what do you say to that?
Yeah, well, I will say that Texas had an influx of about 2.5 million people in the past several years. They needed to redistrict, and that's also a very red state. You look at a state like Virginia, and it's purple. As you just pointed out, it's 6-5. They're almost evenly split, and they want to make it 10-1. It is completely unfair. They know it. And again, they don't care who knows that they are trying to weigh the scales. It is very obvious.
Yeah, let's go back to Obama for a second. What else has he been up to? He's been leading an 11-year coup against Trump since he came down the escalator in 2015. It's part of the continuing coup pushing unconstitutional redistricting so Democrats can seize Congress and remove Trump from office. Watch this.
Hey, Virginia. Early voting is underway, and Virginians are turning out in record numbers to vote yes. By voting yes, you have a chance to do something important, not just for the Commonwealth, but for our entire country. By voting yes, you can push back against the Republicans trying to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. By voting yes, you can take a temporary step to level the playing field. And we're counting on you. Early voting is happening right now. Election day is on April 21st.
Send out Obama. Get everybody to listen. How many are still brainwashed by this guy? You think they're still following him? We've covered this in the past couple of years. He showed up in Chicago. Remember how they ignored him when he was walking around? He wasn't the star that they thought he was anymore because they've been waking up to his lies. Let's hope it's working.
Well, look, who makes a multi-million-dollar mistake on their financial disclosure form? Either her accountant went to one of those quality leering centers in Minnesota, or she lied about it. If she lied about it, that's a felony, Sean.
Talking about Ilhan Omar. So she's already here illegally. We know Obama came in illegally. They covered it up. They got rid of the people that actually had his birth certificate. Remember, they had this plane crash, and all of a sudden, the folks that happened to have his records ended up gone.
Her accountant went to one of the quality leering centers, then she should work with us as a whistleblower to help us prosecute all of her fellow Somalis who were involved in this massive welfare scheme in Minnesota. Either way, she's never explained to the public how her net worth was $30 million, and if she made a mistake, how the mistake happened. I mean, it's not possible. You review that financial disclosure form. Before you hit enter, you enter all the assets in, and then it pops up, and you review it, and you hit it again. So it's highly unlikely that she made a mistake. This isn't going to go away from her, so we're going to continue to try to push for answers and see if her name pops up in any of these frauds that Vice President Vance and the House Oversight Committee are detecting in Minnesota.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to these politicians, research suggests politicians are more likely to be psychopaths. Several of the characteristics that define a psychopath also correspond to the traits that make for effective leaders. For politicians, this is true, John Solomon said Congress releases names of over 20 lawmakers and former lawmakers investigated for sexual misconduct. You got to know, folks, it's a lot more than 20. Ripcord said, when you realize the majority of our selected leaders are borderline psychopaths, it all begins to make sense. President Trump said the Democrats refused to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. This is not what our founders desired. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. Remember, this was February 13, 2026, he told us. Also, the people of our country are insisting on citizenship and no mail-in ballots, with exceptions for military, disability, illness, or travel. While all this is happening, Old Thune, again, refuses to commit to the Save America Act. Thune just dodged on bringing the critical election integrity bill back up after the budget and FISA are handled.
Their largest refund in years. Money that is going toward paying down credit card debt, catching up on bills, padding saving accounts, or covering the cost of a vacation, end quote. Money that is going toward paying down credit card debt, catching up on bills, padding savings accounts, or covering the cost of a vacation. Mr. President, that was our goal with this bill. To take some of the pressure off, to free up money that families could use to do things like pay down debt or put away for a rainy day or take a much-needed vacation. Thanks to the working families tax cuts, American.
So anyway, he runs his mouth and he quotes, says, if we don't have other pressing stuff in front of us that has to get done, then we'll see about getting that going. Translation, election security can actually wait, he says, basically. Old Tim Burchett warned about the Senate kicking the can down the road until it's too late. The Save America Act is not other pressing stuff, as Thune likes to call it. It's fundamental to fair elections and stopping non-citizen voting.
The American people want the Save America Act. The swamp wants FISA 702 reauthorized without any meaningful reforms. The Senate is doing it exactly backwards. We've got to get back on the Save America Act. We've got to get it passed. And if one's going to take precedence over the other, it sure as heck shouldn't be the one that Americans hate and the DC swamp wants. Let's get back to work on the Save America Act. That's what the American people want.
The Senator Mike Lee, for all those wondering. Also, regarding the Executive Order 13848, says Fletch 17. Did you know this happened? Biden renewed it every single year. Let that sink in. Well, what is it all about? The most recent renewal of the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13848 occurred September 3rd, 2025. It was issued by President Trump on September 12, 2018, declared a national emergency regarding the threat of foreign interference in our undermining public confidence in U.S. elections. Under the National Emergencies Act, such emergencies automatically terminate after 1 year unless the president publishes a notice in the Federal Register and transmits it to Congress stating it will continue. This has been done annually by subsequent administrations, Trump, Biden, and the current one, typically in early September to extend it beyond the September 12th anniversary date. The 2025 continuation notice explicitly states that the emergency must continue in effect beyond September 12, 2025. Prior continuations include September 9th, 2024, September 7th, 2023, and similar annual notices in early years, 21 and 22. The elections are important, folks. CBS News reportedly accelerated their activity into Russiagate investigation. Oh, yeah. Former senior intelligence and FBI officials who are cooperating with the U.S. Justice Department's criminal probe into whether former CIA Director John Brennan lied to Congress were subpoenaed over the weekend to testify before a grand jury in Washington, D.C. Multiple sources familiar with the matter told CBS News. This is from Julie Kelly. The subpoenas went out shortly after the Justice Department appointed conservative Trump ally Joe DiGenova to formally take over the criminal investigation into Brennan after the career prosecutor handling the case was removed last week. So there were headlines out about Joe DiGenova, from 8 years ago, when the fake news media relentlessly smeared him for saying the DOJ had framed President Trump. At the same time, this was treated as a completely unhinged conspiracy theory. In reality, it was 100% accurate. Here's some of those headlines. Trump just hired a deep state conspiracy theorist as his lawyer. Here's what Joe DiGenova has said. Joseph DiGenova, the bizarre conspiracy theories peddled by Donald Trump's new lawyer. Another headline. You ready? Trump to hire lawyer who pushed theory DOJ framed Trump. Well, man, the media. The liars. Axios 4B. Saw this from there. They said, we're going to read this out for everyone. They built the weapon. Now it's pointed at them. We're talking about the enemy. John Brennan, Obama's CIA director, the architect of the Russia hoax, the man who signed the order to spy on a sitting president. The DOJ just activated a grand jury against him, subpoenas issued, witnesses called, the prosecutor who tried to protect him removed, replaced with a man who will not hesitate. Read that again. The same Department of Justice they weaponized against Trump is now hunting the people who gave the orders. This is the FISA boomerang. Remember the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, boomerang. They built a surveillance machine to destroy one man, President Trump. They wiretapped his phones, President Trump's phones. They infiltrated his campaign. They fabricated evidence. They leaked classified intelligence to the media. And they signed their names on every page. FISA applications require signatures. To spy on Trump, they had to, sign documents. Every lie, every fabrication, every anonymous source has a name attached to a warrant. Brennan signed it. Comey signed it. McCabe signed it. Peter Strzok signed it. You know what's interesting, folks, when I'm reading this? How many cared or knew who these people were in the past, who was running the FBI? We didn't know. We didn't care. We were going about our daily lives. We didn't realize the effect it was having on us. And it just didn't really pay attention until President Trump entered the scene. All of a sudden, he's talking about making our lives great again, and he's actually making good on his promises, and he's getting attacked left and right from these people. And we're like, who are they? Who's Brennan? Oh, NSA. Oh, who's Comey? FBI. Remember I just told you about that movie, Mercury Rising? It kind of gives you a little idea on, you get into their business, the no such agency business, and you start realizing just how dangerous it can be. Their signatures are the evidence. They thought they would never be held accountable. They thought the system would protect them. They thought the next president would bury it. Instead, the next president was the target, and he came back. And guess what? That man was in the Oval Office, and he read 2 Chronicles 7:14 to the nation. If my people will humble themselves and pray, I will heal their land. He's reading that. He's going to read it to the nation. Connect, Brennan, grand jury activated, subpoenas issued. FISA, every signature now evidence. Comey, next in the chain. McCabe, next after Comey. Epstein files, 3 million pages. Harvard connections exposed. Bondi's holding the ledger. Gold's at $4,800 plus. The old system bleeds while the new one loads. Chains breaking, link by link, name by name. Brennan first, then the man who appointed him. You know his name. They spied on a president. They fabricated a Russia hoax. They impeached him twice. They indicted him 91 times. They tried to imprison him. They tried to kill him. He survived all of it. You know what, folks, is happening now is there's big name podcasters that everybody trusted, and I talked about this last week, who are now being used to sow seeds of doubt into your thoughts about President Trump. I mean, they've always got their next weapon, right? And I'm not saying we worship President Trump. We're allowed to ask questions. Hey, President Trump, I want to tell you something. I've got my own issues on certain things that I can't talk to him directly about, that I'd love to see changed. And maybe even if I could get with, folks out there like Pete Hegseth, if I could have his ear for 10 minutes and just say, I've got a few issues with when you say that you're helping all the military. I've got a couple of things I wish that they would change or they would look into. One of them is flying families overseas when they get orders. When military gets orders, guys, to go overseas, a lot of times they'll put them on military chartered, they're civilian chartered flights. And I've always had a problem with that because they put, you get married, you're excited, imagine, right? Your spouse is in the military and you're like, hey, we got orders overseas. We're going to go live there for 2 to 3 years. They get on these airplanes and they've got like rusted seats. Half of the video programs devices don't work on the seats. The plane looks like it was built, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And you're like, what am I doing? And they, they're nice people that work on these aircraft. But I'm like, why are you putting them on the lowest bidding aircraft for these families that are leaving home, America, for years? And this is the way they're treated when they're sent overseas. Anyway, just one of my 2 cents. In case anybody happens to have connections to Pete Hegseth, I would love you to get that information to him. Man, I'd love to talk to him. Anyway, the chain's breaking. President Trump survived all of it. Now, from the same Oval Office, they tried to keep him out of. He is reading the Bible. He's going to read the Bible with one hand and signing their arrest warrants with the other. The boomerang has landed. 3 major Supreme Court of the United States leaks in 4 years. Did you guys know that?
New York Times reporting it has obtained secret memos, which it says, quote, illuminate the origins of the court's now routine shadow docket rulings on presidential power. Joining us now in those not so secret memos, Fox News legal editor Carrie Urban. You know, I was thinking the last big leak out of the Supreme Court was Dobbs. And that was 4 years ago now. I mean, how time flies. And now this. Where's the stuff coming from?
And there was another one between Dobbs and this one, and that one was on presidential immunity. That was in 2024, I believe, and it was a memo that detailed how the chief was going to handle the decision. And within that same report, and that was also from the New York Times, was one about, there was some information about how he had reassigned an opinion from Justice Alito to himself because of the so-called flag controversy that was happening at his home at the time, if you remember that one. And so we're looking at 3 major leaks over the last 4 years, which is really unheard of for the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay, so why?
It's a great question, Sandra. And look, I think these leaks tend to go in one direction, and it is to undercut what the conservative wing of the Supreme Court is doing.
Wonder who that is. Julie Blue put this out. Ketanji Brown Jackson's probably the one, huh? Remember, he showed up 4 years ago, since we've had these leaks, 3 major leaks from the Supreme Court in 4 years. 4 years ago, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Why the news is tiptoeing around the obvious here is beyond me. She was sworn in 2022. Leaks started flooding out. Dobbs immunity. Now the shadow docket memos. This DEI hire is the common denominator, turning the highest court into a leaky sleeve for the left. For God's sake, in her 2022 Supreme Court confirmation hearing, she said she didn't know what a woman was. Or what a woman is. Shouldn't we have seen this coming? Yeah, of course we should. She's there. And it makes me wonder, you know, all these signatures done by Biden on his, the fake signatures, right, that were done by a computer. My hope is that they get to the bottom of this last election, 2020, and they say, hey, guess what? It was stolen. Everything that Biden did is gone, and that would include the Supreme Court justice, and they can finally put people in there that care about our country and act like human beings. You know, we had the Federal Reserve panic that's happening. We've talked about that today a little bit. The fiat dollar predictions that are there with Dr. Kirk Elliott have been phenomenal. Silver, gold is going up, continues to go up. We've had a great interview that we released Saturday. If you missed it, here's a portion of that.
I mean, when you look at what's the largest asset class that central banks around the world own, it used to be the US dollar. It's now gold. All right, so this is interesting. This paradigm shift, this maybe reset that Scott Bessent is talking about.
Right.
Because we're going to have a reset. What is it? Because you can't keep a system that's broken, LT. The way that we have it, fiat-based money creation, it is broken. And like we talked about on the last show, the reset might be tangible-backed currency, or it could be cryptocurrency or tangible-backed cryptocurrency. It's just going to be different from what we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump is trying everything to keep us at the top of the heap.
And we know .com/gold. You can have conversations with Dr. Kirk Elliott or somebody on his team. They're going to help you out. And folks, you jump on the silver bandwagon. I'm telling you, it's changed our life in our future in phenomenal ways by bringing our IRAs over to him. And that's just a great thing to do. Hope you check them out. You know, the Fairfax County Public School Board in Virginia voted 8-1 to make Veterans Day a regular school day. No more Veterans Day for them.
News coming out of Virginia. Guys, I could say a lot of things right now, and you probably wouldn't be surprised because we're seeing wild things come out of Virginia. The school board in Fairfax County has now decided that Veterans Day will no longer be celebrated or recognized. The school children in Fairfax County, they're going to pretend that Veterans Day didn't even happen. They're going to go on business as usual. But I happen to notice that a lot more Muslim days are being put on our calendars. You're not going to recognize Veterans Day. You wouldn't even be sitting in your classroom teaching the children if we didn't have veterans. And Fairfax County says we don't care. Veterans are of no significance to us. We're skipping right over Veterans Day. That's wild.
Democrats in Virginia deciding Veterans Day is no longer important. Wow. Listen to this from a young girl trying to do what she can to go against these Democrats.
People have been saying that I'm too young to have my own opinion and that I don't really understand what I'm talking about. And that's been really hard to hear, especially when those same people are spreading things about me and my mom that just aren't true. But it really hurts to see people go after my mom because she didn't push me to do any of this. If anything, she was worried more than anyone for me. This was my decision, and even with all of that, I've been seeing something really different. After I spoke out, so many moms and dads have been reaching out and looking out for me. That showed me that what I'm saying matters. Normal girls don't want boys in our bathrooms, locker rooms, or sports. That's not hate. That's just wanting to feel safe and treated fairly.
So if you head over to Netflix, out of all places, The Darkness Falls caught on to this. They boosted a documentary to blame all political corruption on Christians. They're the most politically influential Christian group you've never heard of, and they're pulling the strings of power in America and beyond. That's a quote from their little show. They're blaming all of humanity and world problems as the fault of Christians. Oh yeah, that's right. The Obamas have a major deal with Netflix through Netflix's former board member, Susan Rice, who is also a former national security advisor and United Nations ambassador for President Obama and was ushered into the Bill Clinton's National Security Council staff. Makes sense? These demons who are all Satan-worshiping, cannibalistic pedophiles that traffic, murder, and consume children are manipulating the consciousness of the masses. Also, Susan Rice left the Netflix board for a brief time in 2020 to become Joe Biden's director of the White House Domestic Policy Council in attempts to help undo everything the Trump administration did positively for this country to try and preserve their own evil enterprises and thus power control over how citizens think. But sure, let's blame world problems on Christians orchestrating a world takeover through clandestine operations from the shadows. Christians aren't the ones hiding. They're the ones publicly dragging evil players from dark to light while praying for those who don't yet see. President Trump posted on April 17th, 2026, was Reed Hastings forced to leave the Netflix board because he's a sleazebag? What was his crime and how many did he commit? Criminals working at Netflix. Well, this came out from, looks like the Daily Journal, I think. I don't know. Obama's, maybe Breitbart. Obama's and Netflix reportedly parting ways. Is that right? You know, we were told on the Q board some things about Netflix. Netflix, social engineering must be suppressed as should the media complex. That's what somebody posted to Q. Q wrote back with media keywords Netflix and said, you have more than you know. Who just joined the board of Netflix? Who pushed? Who is coming? Yeah, they were telling us. They were telling us. They're trying to normalize what? They put trying to normalize what? Child porn. There's a lot of that that's been playing out throughout our nation, and many folks have been praying, and we've been working together and showing more and more how this should work. But it's amazing to finally have pulpits. I looked up on AI, actually, folks, and I asked who this guy was. According to this guy that I'm about to play, Pastor Lauren Livingston of Central Church of God, Charlotte, North Carolina. Listen to what he says behind the pulpit, and then we'll close in prayer.
Children don't come into this world confused. They come in wanting candy and toys. They want to play. They want to have fun. They want to be hugged and held. They want to run and scream and have a good time, but they don't come in wondering about their privates or about their inclinations or sexual instincts. No. It's unstable perverted adults that are indoctrinating young children, that are confusing the least of these by planting suggestions in their mind, showing them pictures, and asking them to experiment, at least experiment. I think it is mental child abuse. I think it is psychological brainwashing. I think it ought to be a crime. I think parents ought to rise up. But we've been beaten down, you see, and it's also been held back from us. And the government is silent about it and crooked about it. And they're teaching our children things we don't want them to know. And they're exposing them too early. And they're convincing them of something that isn't even the truth. To me, that is a crime against humanity. And if you are a school teacher who is doing this, you, in my opinion, are a criminal. And if you are a school principal who's promoting this, you are a criminal. And if you're the school board who's pushing this, you're all criminals. You're aiding and abetting perversion, and you're ruining children and our society.
You take that, and some would say, I don't like his demeanor. He seems so angry and upset. When you start dealing with our children and you start hurting them, you better be upset and you better start defending them. Some would say this isn't Christian-like. Go back and read the Word of God and tell me, did Jesus Christ walk up into his temple and just have a conversation, or did he flip tables when he realized what was happening? Did he take out a whip and start using it? You betcha. There are times we get fired up, and one of them, we've been told on the Q board especially, when they realize, when we realize, and the world realizes what they've done to our children, we're going to get fired up. Let's stay in prayer.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, again, we come before your throne, grateful to you for your grace and your mercy in our life. Thank you for how you continue to guide and direct the leaders that have taken over our nation, that have been placed, we believe, by you. All these kings are not placed into any section of this earth if it's not allowed by you. We know that you're in full control. You're bringing many to the precipice before they finally realize, when they get to the edge of the cliff and they look over and wonder, what is my life all about? Why is this all happening? They realize the evil, the extent of evil that has happened around them. And they start looking for something good. And the hope and prayer and what we've seen from many have been so wonderful. Watching folks come back to you, to your word, and reading it, studying it, sharing it with others. We ask that you continue to guide and direct our own lives and how we talk to our neighbors and our loved ones and those around us about these truths that have been playing out before our very eyes. The twisting of the evil ones using government to destroy us. We ask that we would be pulled from this slavery sooner than we think. Again, we come before your throne. We thank you. All this in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen and amen. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hitting that like button, the follow button, and so much more. You guys are so good to us. We thank you for your prayers. Now it's LT Semper Fi, with them we know. Signing out.
Hoo-yah, Navy! Hoo-yah, Navy!
God bless the United States Navy.